The observation deck of the Galactic Council Station hummed with the nervous chatter of 100 species. Alexander stood among them, his human form looking peculiarly fragile compared to the armored Krill beside him or the crystalline Vexthar delegates across the room. But his attention wasn't on the crowd. It was fixed on the woman who had just entered through the main airlock. Anna walked into the station wearing nothing but standard civilian clothing, no exoskeleton, no plasma shields, no sonic disruptors. Just a simple jacket, cargo pants, and boots worn from years of use. She carried no visible weapons. She made no sound beyond the soft footfalls of her approach. And yet, every predator species in the room immediately turned to look at her. The Krill warrior, whose kind had conquered 17 star systems through pure military might, took an involuntary step backward. The Shenrak ambassador, whose species had evolved as apex hunters on a death world where survival meant outthinking, prey that could phase through solid matter, tilted its head in what Alexander recognized as their gesture of respect. Even the usually stoic Vexthar, beings of pure logic and mathematical precision, recalculated their positions to maintain a careful distance. "That's impossible," whispered the Krill beside Alexander, his translator rendering the clicks and growls into perfect standard. "She has no threat display, no pheromones, no electromagnetic signature of weapons. How do they all know?" Alexander smiled, a peculiarly human expression that showed teeth. "They just do." Anna approached the group with an easy confidence, her eyes scanning the room not with paranoia, but with the casual awareness of someone who had learned long ago to read every space she entered. When she reached Alexander, she gave him a slight nod. "Status?" she asked simply. "The Devourers have been sighted 3 systems away," Alexander replied. "The Council is debating whether to evacuate or fortify." The Devourers. Even the name caused a ripple of fear through the assembled delegates. A hive species that consumed entire planets, leaving nothing but stripped rock in their wake. They had destroyed 12 civilizations in the past century, and no military force had been able to stop them. "How long until they arrive?" Anna's voice was calm, conversational even. 48 standard hours. She nodded, processing this information with the same casual efficiency she might use to plan a grocery trip. Then she turned to the council chambers. "I should speak with them." The Krill warrior finally found his voice. "You? What can one human do against a swarm that has destroyed fleets?" Anna paused, looking back at him. There was no anger in her expression, no offense taken. Just a quiet certainty that made the warrior's multiple hearts skip in their complex rhythm. "We'll see," she said simply, and continued walking. Alexander followed, as did a growing procession of curious delegates. They wanted to understand this phenomenon, this inexplicable recognition that occurred whenever humans entered a space. Scientists had studied it for decades since humanity had joined the galactic community. They had measured everything: electromagnetic fields, pheromones, gravitational distortions, quantum signatures. Nothing explained it, but every predator species knew it instantly. That presence, that recognition dot inside the council chambers, Anna stood before the assembled leaders of 43 species. She didn't use a podium. She didn't need amplification. She simply stood in the center of the room and spoke. "I've read the reports on the Devourers," she began. "They're efficient. They follow predictable patterns. They've never encountered resistance they couldn't overwhelm with numbers." "Exactly our point," snapped the Quinter counselor, a species that resembled nothing so much as an intelligent mantis. "We must evacuate. Anything else is suicide." Anna shook her head. "You're thinking like prey." The room erupted in outraged chattering. The counselor's antennae quivered with indignation. "We are not prey. My species has ruled our sector for—" "I didn't say you are prey. Anna interrupted calmly. I said you're thinking like prey. There's a difference. She began to pace, and every eye in the room tracked her movement. Prey runs. Prey hides. Prey sacrifices the weak to save the strong. But here's what you're missing. The devourers aren't unbeatable. They've just never met a predator before. Alexander watched the room carefully. He could see the shift in posture, the subtle changes in how the various species held themselves. Anna wasn't just talking. She was demonstrating something fundamental about humanity, something that couldn't be quantified but could be felt. Predators don't just react, Anna continued. Predators plan. They set traps. They understand their prey's patterns and use them against them. They know that sometimes the best defense is making the other side afraid to attack at all. She stopped in the center of the room again. Her stance relaxed but balanced. Ready. I've brought tactical plans for 40 different scenarios. I've coordinated with human military strategists across 6 sectors. We're not proposing to flee. We're proposing to hunt. The Shenrak ambassador rose, its crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns. What makes you believe you can succeed where entire fleets have failed? Anna's smile was slight but genuine. Because we're humans. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We had no armor plating, no natural weapons, no venom or claws. But we became the apex predator of our world anyway. Do you know how? The silence in the chamber was absolute. Persistence, adaptability, and the absolute refusal to accept that anything is inevitable. She paused. The devourers are about to learn what every Earth predator learned millions of years ago. Humans don't run. We turn around and fight. And we win. Alexander saw it then, a moment of recognition that rippled through the chamber. Not fear, exactly. Something deeper. Something primal. Every predator species in the room understood, on a level below conscious thought, what they were witnessing. A human declaring war. The vote to fight was unanimous. As they left the chambers. The Krill warrior approached Anna with visible hesitation. I still don't understand, he said. How do we recognize you? What is it about humans? Anna considered the question seriously before answering. I think, she said slowly, it's because we remember what it was like to be prey. We remember the fear, the desperation, the absolute determination to survive against impossible odds. But we didn't just survive, we conquered. And somewhere deep in the evolutionary memory of every predator species, there's a recognition of that journey. You see us, and part of you remembers. These are the ones who refuse to die. She smiled then, and the Krill warrior understood why his instincts screamed warnings about this unarmored, unarmed human female. We're the prey that became the hunters, Anna said quietly. And that's the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. 48 hours later, when the devourers arrived, they found not a fleeing population, but a trap designed by human military strategists and executed by a coalition of species who had learned, finally, to think like predators instead of prey. The swarm never left the system, and across the galaxy, a new understanding spread. Humanity had no armor because they didn't need it. They made no threat displays because their mere presence was threat enough. They were the species that had clawed their way from the bottom of the food chain to the top through sheer, bloody-minded determination that every predator recognized them instantly, because every predator remembered what it was like to face something that refused to die. The end.